many of you know a little bit about scientific illustration already? Raise your hands. Like slight raise a hand.
I've seen
That's fine.
pictures.
No worries at all.
I've looked at a science textbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about what I expected. How many of you are interested in science in general?
I like science.
Yeah. You like science? Then raise your hand.
No.
I'm just teasing. So, let's see here. I have. I'm a little. What's the word? A little disorganized today, I guess. How dare I? I should lose my job.
It worked.
I'm glad. I have to resort to any verbal violence. I'm just teasing, obviously. I wouldn't actually do that.
The fact that you had to explain it speaks for itself. You're like, our linebackers wouldn't actually. That's kind of suspicious. I think she would.
So, let me get this stupid junk board ready.
Who's
This is roughly going to be a split into two parts. Hopefully this thing will work. Right, I forgot about my music. Got your attention now. Okay, so like I said before, I have work by this artist named Ditto. I'm going to show you her website and some of her a bit more variety of her work later, but for the most part, this lesson entails the how you guys might go about doing some scientific illustrations of your own. I'm going to introduce the artist, and then I'm going to show you the presentation that she made of her process and how she goes about making her illustrations, and some of her works, and assignment objectives, and some examples from my own work if you guys need more examples, and then a small demo if you guys need it. So, let's see here. I'm having to switch through things. So she has three parts to it: exploration, drafting, and rendering. Exploration is observation, looking for inspiration, having questions or curiosities like, what does this make me think of? Why does it work this way? What is this that I'm seeing? And some other wonderings, which I'll give some examples of some questions that you might ask yourself for your own work. You'll also be doing a little bit of, think of this lesson, it's going to be in your sketchbook. Think of this lesson as a study page, similar how we did the anatomy lesson, where I asked you guys to do a page or two of anatomy and writing down like your observations, questions, and wonderings and whatnot, as well as detailed studies. It also includes finding references and also finding data to support what she's trying to incorporate into her scientific illustration, because the purpose of scientific illustration is to show and express, but also to share information via images, right? And all the while she's asking herself questions. And then she gets into the drafting stage, which involves many sketches and much planning. You guys don't need to do a lot of sketches. You can sketch out all on one page and then refine them as you go. It's honestly up to you. I'm giving you a little bit of freedom with that. I'm not asking that you make a whole extra set of pages for preparatory work and then make a really nice page, if that makes sense. Then there's more planning and testing ideas, clarifying info with the scientists that she's working with in order to make these images accurate, and then also discussion with them as well, because she said to me that it's back and forth a lot. She collaborates really closely with these people in order to make these illustrations. And then you also have to think about the final product and the audience that you're trying to convey your information to. This is always important. You want to make sure that not only is your handwriting, if you write notes in it, legible enough for somebody to be able to figure out what it says, but also you need to make sure that your visual language makes sense as well. And then it ends up going to creating the final product, putting in details and having lots and lots of patience. And then she does also do digital work, which occasionally her work will start out traditional and then move into digital. And then she prepares to publicize her work, usually in scientific illustration magazines, and also the scientists themselves put it in their papers as illustrations and figures. So when these steps happen, obviously changes a little bit depending on what you're working on. Her primary locations that she works on, where she does her work, is out in the field or in a lab. Say you're looking into a microscope and trying to draw a little bug wing that you have on a slide, right? You're going to be sitting over that microscope, looking in the microscope lens, and then back at your sketchbook and back and forth, trying to render that image that you're seeing through the microscope as well as you can, right? Other locations include, she occasionally has to read scientific papers or do a lot of internet research on her own, but also collaboration with the scientists out in the field or in the lab. Stop me if I'm going too fast, because I know you're making notes there. So she'll do a large amount of her work out in the field, but also at a certain point she does have to come inside, especially if it's cold. She can't stay outside all day, so eventually her work moves into the studio. with the exception of finalized field paintings, which field paintings or field drawings is what we are doing today. However, I am not making you stay outside. What I am going to ask that you do is take lots of pictures from different angles of the thing that you are drawing, either a landscape or an object that you find outside. And field sketching kind of goes into the process of exploring and finding a location or a subject that you want to draw, figuring out the composition. Obviously, you guys have probably worked with a grid system before, figuring out where everything needs to lie in order for it to fit on a page, and also figuring out what needs to be sky, background, midground, foreground, and etc. And then she does a loose sketch, but it needs to still be accurate at this page, especially if you're doing watercolor. The better your sketch is, the better your painting's gonna be. So you get the main shapes. She erases dark or extra lines before painting. And then she does color blocking with light washes. And she also has to keep in mind of white or light areas, because watercolor obviously is a transparent medium, but you use the white of the paper as your white, unless you're using gouache, which is something a little different. But you need to kind of have that little bit of planning in mind as you're going to keep those whites white, or have a tool with you that's going to preserve those whites, either a white gel pen to make those whites white again, or a bit of masking fluid, which masking fluid is hard to carry around, but you get the idea. So then she goes in and adds depth and definition, light to dark values, and then adds details. She also adds highlights with the gel pen or the white gouache. And this is a setup that she actually has. My setup when I'm field painting is really, really similar, even down to some of these specific supplies that she has. You've seen me carry around those little water brushes that have water in them, and then you squeeze them with watercolor in them. That's really helpful. Obviously, since I'm letting you guys do your own medium in this, it could be anything you want, but I thought showing you her setup and some of the things that she actively brings out in the field with her would help you figure out what you might want to do if you decide to do something like this in the future. Oh, okay. Didn't realize I did this. Huh? I'll be posting that on the Google Classroom if you need them. Everything will be on the Google Classroom. So obviously we talked about how her process works, but also she said artists should never be afraid to ask questions. I might not always know, but asking questions allows me to better understand what I am looking at. Research and collaboration is key. So I want you to be continuously writing down your questions or thoughts as you're going, because it's going to allow you to go back and be able to do research later. Like, if you're not writing down your notes, you might go, oh, wait, what was that question again? What was it that I needed to know about this thing that might make my drawing possibly better? So this is another example of her work. This is a finished piece that she spent, I want to say it was like around 2 weeks in one of the passes. She's an Alaskan artist. And she will like go to a spot, set it up with little rocks, and then she'll come back the next day, and then she'll set up and have a painting day. And she'll frequently have to come back and do it multiple times, but it just gives you an idea of how long sometimes the process takes.
And she's watercolor.
Yeah. It's part of the reason why I talked to her. I was interested in it personally. Let's see. Now I'm going to show you her website. If I can get it up here. A little interesting thing about her is she's close to my age. I didn't know that before I met her, which was super funny to me. But she's currently in California getting her another degree. So she hikes and goes outdoors and backpacks a lot. That's that piece that I just showed you that she's working on there. You can see she's kind of set up a little workstation among the rocks. She has a little camp almost with an umbrella and a windshield, and she's all set up and ready to go. Yeah, she's doing a program for scientific illustration specifically right now. So let me show you some of her work. I really like her style because it's very detailed, it's very accurate, but it also has some elements of whimsicality, if that makes sense. Like her brassica here on the left. Brassicas are a plant that a lot of cabbage and lettuce and broccoli and a whole bunch of other plants derive from. This is the original plant. And then she did like a sort of Art Nouveau style background. And then like you can see even that she added the various types of things that evolved from this one plant in these circles above it. So very detail oriented. Also skulls. You know by now, hopefully some of you know, most of you know that I love skulls. So that's part of the reason why I also wanted to show you her work. She does do gouache occasionally. I believe this little cuttlefish is gouache, and so is the Chinese evergreen here. But for the most part, she does stick to watercolor. And then she does quite a bit of landscapes as well, which I don't know about you guys, but I personally don't like landscapes, which is why I like to really focus down in on individual objects. So, she also has infographics that she's made, like this one that was actually published. It talks a lot about the impacts of climate change on the surrounding mountains and permafrost, which is really interesting. So this is one way that you guys could eventually, if you wanted to, use your art to create things like this that help inform people. Just another way of using your art to help. This is another one that she made, talking about the red algae in Kootenai Glacier. So, any questions, concerns? You guys look a little sleepy, starting to see. Nodding. So, do we want to get started?
Yes.
Do you guys want to see my examples? Okay. So I go about it a little bit differently. I'm not quite as detail oriented as she is. I have shown some of you my sketchbooks, so a lot of this may be familiar to you, but I thought for those of you who haven't had a chance to look at my sketchbooks yet, I would show you this as an example. I'll go through it really fast so that we can actually get to work on something. I don't want to ruin your guys' homework time. So I did a series of drawings for essentially an independent study for college when I was really done with my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. Like, it was during the same semester that I was doing my my thesis. So at the same time I was doing this class. It's called independent study, which basically you have to talk to your professor or your mentor or whoever you're doing it with and say, hey, I want to do this. I chose to do scientific illustrations of Alaskan animals. Because animals, until this period of time for me, I really hadn't done a whole lot. So this is obviously not an Alaskan animal, but the majority of what I did was Alaskan. This was watercolor and then a few small details with color pencil and also with a opaque ink for like the highlight on the eyeball here. This was the first one in my series. I had to build myself up to figuring out again how to draw things from what I actually saw versus what I thought I saw. This is an observational exercise. I want you guys to draw from what you see. This is an example of one of my better study pages. I wrote notes in it, like, for example, the text above the moose's rump there says, moose nose. Why? Because I wanted to know why their noses were shaped that way. I found out later that the large nostrils can point in two different directions, and also they can close up so that when moose go underwater, they don't have a whole bunch of water go into their sinuses. They dive up to 25 feet, which is crazy. I also did some studies of the skull, kind of figuring out that sinus cavity there, and then I realized after drawing the second skull that's vertical there, that the vertical one was actually an elk skull after looking a bit more and researching, and I said, oops, oh well. So I wrote all these things down there that I've basically written. And then I did the local mallards that we have. I wrote the scientific name and also both have the blue purple patches that you see on the wing. These were never quite finished, but I got to a point where I liked how they looked, which is like, you can do that. You don't have to make it extremely detailed. This is an example of bears that I did, also still writing the scientific name and also some more information like what the front left paw of the black bear looks like in comparison with the grizzly paw there. Some studies of salmon, the female versus the male during spawning season, what the colors look like. I did a whole double spread of owls. So Alaska has like over 12 species of owls and they all look really similar, but they're all different sizes. They have different shades and patterns and calls and all sorts of stuff. So I did that. And then some more stuff, but that's the majority of what I did for my independent study. Any questions? I know mine didn't really have a whole lot of notes on some of them, but I really do want you guys to understand that you should have notes. The main example piece that I got from Julia that I want you guys to kind of use as a reference for how much detail you should have is this one here. If I can get it to show up. So this is one of her sketchbook pages that has a birch tree. It's a paper birch, and then she has the scientific name there, and then the date, and where she drew it, and then various little sketches like the sides of the birch, the branch in detail, and also the little individual details and the shape of the overall trees when they have no leaves on them. It says the paper birch is native to North America. It is named for its paper-like peeling bark. Trunk color ranges from white to brown to gray or reddish. And then she also did, like, next to these trees for scale, it shows like a little person. This is quite detailed, but this is kind of what I want you guys to aim for. So, I have some objects here in the classroom that you guys can actually draw from if you don't want to go outside, which I understand it's really cold. So I've got pine cones, and I've got seed pods, and all sorts of really crazy dried stuff. Like, this is really interesting. You could get really detailed sketches of some of that texture, or even just the texture on the stem. I have all sorts of stuff here. So, how many of you want to go outside with me and take pictures? I'm only saying a few yes. Okay. If you want to get started with this stuff, or if you already have images that you've taken maybe over the summer of something that you might want to draw, go right ahead. So that's what we're doing. And this is like over 2 sessions.
Because I believe that this is more like
I understand. Honestly, like, whenever you're in here and I'm doing something like this, you just get started.
Isn't it interesting?
My sketchbook's in my locker.
Yeah, go right ahead. When y'all are ready, just let me know. That I'm not sure. I know what's most of.
What is
That's a poppy pod.
so cool?
That is some kind of thistle. Yeah.
It looks like the flower that Sally
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Folsom would know probably what those are exactly, but it's probably some variety of thistle. And I was gonna bring a whole bunch of stuff today. I have leaves that I've collected from DC that I brought home on the plane with me, and I forgot them today. Oh well. They're pretty delicate anyway. And you guys don't have to do this stuff. You can also do a landscape if you want to. I thought I would give you guys a little bit of variety.
So it's pretty cool.
It's another kind of seed pod. It's just not got the seeds in it anymore. How you feeling, Ava? Thank you so much for the pastry the other day. It made a huge difference. I don't want to go outside either, but you know. Yeah. You guys are always free to do this on your own time too. Like, take what you learned today. Yeah. Those I don't remember what the practice is called, but like the little pinned insects.
Well, we have a lot of those, but I actually have like one of those and one that's in
Oh, very cool. That'll be good.
It's like for sobbing in class. They're in like this water bottle like thing. Like we cut up water bottles.
But they're real? Wow. Very cool.
They've just been in there for years.
Remember, Felix, as you're trying to observe it, think about what you might want to write down. Like, how does it work?
Yeah.
What are these for?
Well, you want other people to know.
Yeah, like, think of it like if you're writing notes on how to fix an engine or something.
Yeah,
like,
right.
you have no
Okay.
idea how it works.
Right.
Write down process, like wonderings. What I I feel? What do I think this is used for? Processes that you might already know about regarding poppy seed bundles, I don't know. Cocaine? No, opium. Yeah.
Are there pencils up here? I do not have any pencils.
Yeah, no worries.
I was like, some drug or something.
I think I have a mechanical pencil.
No problem. Everything outside?
When you guys are ready, just let me know. Alright.
I'm looking. The glasses thing.
Good girl. Yeah.
I'm couple more days. On Thursday, I'm going to practice.
That's good.
Oh yeah.
Alright, also, if you haven't turned in your student permission slip to participate in the field trip, get those in to me soon. Or to Folsom, either one of us.
Is that next Thursday?
It is the